Hi there, I am Oladotun Gbolagunte. I am an associate in the law firm of Banwa and Ighodalo, which is a corporate commercial law firm situated in Lagos, Nigeria. I attended the Nigerian Law School in 2018 and I came out with a second class upper division result. How would I describe myself? I would describe myself as a social person. I'll describe myself as a relatable person. I like to interact with people, and I also describe myself as a little bit of a bookworm, but more social than academic. Coming into the Nigerian Law School, I had different expectations, really. I had heard a lot of things. I had heard good things and I had heard bad things. But really and truly, what I had heard were more bad than good. So a few of the myths, and I call them law school myths. A few of the myths I had heard was that law school was bad. I'd heard a lot of things about the grading system, which we all know is existent. I had heard about the lecturers, about the lecturing style. I had also heard about the long hours of lecture and how complex answering the questions could be. However, I had heard some good stuff as well, part of which was the ability to meet people, that I'll make lifelong friends, which truly I have to this extent. I'd also heard that some of the courses were interesting. I'd heard that my career would significantly change from an undergraduate into a working class professional after my experience at the Nigerian Law School. Now, having heard all I heard, I decided in my mind to disabuse myself of the bad things I had heard and basically just have my own experience, because that's what it's really all about. So I didn't go with a concluded mindset into the Nigerian Law School. I still gave the system a benefit of doubt until I had my personal experience, of which I'm about to share with you. I attended Lagos campus of the Nigerian Law School, and during the registration process, I tried to be as diligent as possible. I came early. I tried to conclude my registration on time because I had heard also that your registration could linger into class period, which I didn't want to be my case. When I entered the law school, I realized that fine, the facilities were not excellent, but I could work with them. There were things that I just had to, whether or not I had to work with it. So I decided that I would take this as a personal view and do the best I can to get the best result I could at the point in time. After the week of orientation, they had put us through the do's and don'ts of law school. I remember the then Deputy Director General of Lagos campus, now the then acting Deputy Director General, Mr. Nasiru Tijani, putting us through the do's and don'ts of law school. And lectures began. I decided that on my first day of lecture, I'll have at least an idea of what is being taught. So prior to that day, the Sunday prior to the first day, which the first course was criminal litigation. So on Sunday evening, I had looked at the tasks that they sent ahead, and I had also read the law school handbook, which they shared with the previous set. So I had a fair idea of what we're going to discuss, and I made sure that at every point in time, going into any class, I was not blank or blindsided about the topic that was going to be discussed. Well, my reading system, because to be honest, I'm more of a social person. So my reading system was pretty simple. The night before any course, I would have gone through the task. I would have gone through the recommended text on that particular subject matter, and I would have gone through the law school handbook, because really and truly, I only wanted to deal with recommended text, so to say. During the course of the class, I would listen attentively. I had a few friends where if I was feeling sleepy, we could share snacks or share sweets or share gum, whatever it took to keep us awake. And I took notes, not just slides, but I took actual notes of the points being made and the points being emphasized. And the class could linger from 6 to 8 hours. Sometimes a few times it went up to 10 hours. I remember particularly one day we had property, and Mr. Udemezwe left us at around 8 p.m. But for me, it was an exciting experience, really, because I knew that it was just a passing phase. So I would take notes in class, and then I would ensure that I had comprehensive notes. After class, my usual pattern was I will go back to the hostel and I'll sleep for a good, let's say, 4 hours. So from 2 to 6, I will sleep, wake up, go and get lunch or dinner, whatever you would want to call it at 6 o'clock. I'll just get, or dinner as I call it, I'll just get something to eat and then watch TV for about an hour and a half just to keep up with what was happening in the country. Actually, really, not TV, news. And then at 8 o'clock, I would open my book. I'll read what we had done the day I was reading. That's if I had done criminal litigation that day, I'll read criminal litigation, what I did in class that day. And then I would read what we had the next day and attend the task of the next day, as well as look at the recommended text for the next day. That usually took up, because it's just 2 courses, it usually took me about 2 hours, sometimes 2 hours 30 minutes, an hour per course, or an hour 15 minutes per course, depending on the volume I had to cover. And after that, really around 10:30, I'll be pretty much done. And I can go and interact with people, go and play, go out, at the point in time, I mean, because law school is at the hub of Lagos, it's really much like at the center of where it's happening. So you could see me at Farm City, having a good fish. You could see me at just different places, having fun. And that was really how I could go through law school, or how I chose to go through law school. It is common knowledge that there are 5 courses at Nigerian law school, which are criminals, civil, property, corporate, and ethics. And each of them carry equal marks, because as that when I was in law school, your lowest grade was the grade you graduated with. So you had to pay close attention and particular attention to each and every course. The first thing I did was to disabuse my mind of having a favorite course, or having a least favorite course, or having a favorite lecturer, or having a least favorite lecturer, because that would really affect my reading pattern, and it would have affected how I paid attention to any particular course. So that was the first step for me. The second step for me was identifying that some courses are more voluminous than others. So some will require more attention than others. That is not particularly because I don't like the other course, but because the level of volume requires more attention, so it will require more time to understand, and because the complexity is also there, it will require more time to comprehend. Having identified that was the second stage for me. And finally, the last stage for me in taking an expansive approach to reading my courses was that some courses have more drafts than others. And if anybody who knows the law school system properly will know, drafting is almost about 65% of the law school exam. So what that meant was that I was going to pay particular attention to the drafts in some courses, whilst others didn't even have. Okay, every course had drafts actually, while some others had very few or limited drafts, like letter, or like a memo, or like a curriculum vitae. So as against having charges, as against having memorandum and articles of association and all those things. So it just helped me make a better informed decision about taking a stance on how to read. I'll tell you that really and truly no course in law school is difficult. I can tell you that for free now. But each course requires a certain level of attention depending on how you comprehend. So also a very good advice to take into the Nigerian law school is to know yourself. Know what works for you. Don't be put under pressure by people that are reading. My personal experience was that I know that I can't read too much in a short period of time. Having that knowledge, it then behoves on me to take my reading in little bits and pieces. So what that also means is that I have to read for the whole entire period of Nigerian law school. So from the very first day I started reading, I would play, but I would read. At least spend 2 hours per day reading at least 2 courses. On the weekend, when I realized that I had not covered some courses, because it will always happen. You are human, you are not a robot. I will go back and revisit those parts I've not covered, and then I will now pay attention to all my drafts. So that's what I spent Saturday and Sunday doing. That was pretty much of it. It wasn't so difficult for me. Funny enough, a funny story I keep sharing with people is that during externship, I was sleeping because I had practically covered 80% of each and every course I was meant to cover. So the remaining 20% was what they were probably going to teach us or re-emphasize when we entered after the externship period. And I also paid particular attention to what was happening in court, the arraignment process, the pleadings process, and those things that they actually sent us to learn especially during the court extension. During my stay at law school, there were several things that motivated me. One was, I don't want to come back here. That was my first motivation. And in my second week of law school, someone said something that was so profound that stuck with me throughout law school, which was that law school is a good place to be. It's a fun place to be, but it's a place to be only once. You don't want to have to repeat the law school experience, because then it could become a daunting task. So the first takeaway for me was that I have to ensure that I don't come back here. Then the second step for me was I need to get a good job after I leave here. So what that means is that I have to get a good result. So in getting a good result, I have to do the things that will require me to get a good result. Then also, I didn't want to disappoint God. I mean, I'm a spiritual person, so for me, I feel like I don't want to have to waste investments put in me, inclusive of school fees, time spent by my lecturers, time spent by my friends. All these things are bits and pieces of people's lives that have been invested in you, Dotun. So I had to speak to myself and say, Dotun, you know what? You have to leave this place on a good note and not have to come back here for any cost whatsoever. And lastly, the last expectation for me was that I wanted to be confident in myself and say, Dotun, you did your best. Whatever you come out with, you know that it was actually your best effort you put in based on your understanding of yourself and your personality. And really, that was what guided me through law school. I'll share a short story. On the weekend of bar finals, I felt terribly sick. I was vomiting, and I was vomiting basically on the weekend and that was the weekend of bar finals. And for me, I was confident in myself that even though I was sick, I will still, at least I will pass. At the very least, I will pass. And why I was confident was pretty simple, because I had read over the period of time. So I didn't have to do a last-minute rush bulk reading. So even if I did not pick up a single piece of paper from that Saturday onward to the end of the exam, I knew at the very least I was going to leave the Nigerian law school and not have to repeat it.